We have officially reached my favorite time of the year, and yes, I enjoy Christmas and the holidays and all the fun things, but the real reason this is my favorite time of year is because it's almost New Year's. And this is probably my most unpopular opinion that I just really hold strong to. New Year's is my favorite day, my all time favorite day. And when people ask me why, I just instantly know that they don't understand the magic because there is something so amazing about the entire world wanting to get their lives together and everyone actively seeking to be a better person, everybody choosing to start fresh, and there's just so much motivation and inspiration going around. Now, do I wish it was fleeting? Absolutely not. Do I wish people stuck with it? Absolutely. But here's the thing. Why would I base my favorite day? Like, do I wish that everybody experienced Christmas the way I did? Yes. Does that mean that I shouldn't like Christmas because everyone else doesn't have the same Christmas as me? No. So, yes, other people are going to fail. Other people are not going to embrace the motivation like I will. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I freaking love New Year's. And that means that all of our podcasts for the month of December leading up to New Year's are going to be really, really focused on that evaluation of 2024. And then we're going to jump into how to prepare for 2025. And then ultimately, like tackling 2025. We're going to start strong because it's just magical. There's something so nice about it to me. So clean, and I love it. So, step one is going to be that evaluation that I just said, all right? And we have a almond milk latte with us today. Super, super good. A little bit of gingerbread in it because yes, New Year's Day is my favorite holiday, but I do love the Christmas time, Christmas lattes, all of that. So we're still going to do it. Hair is looking a little funky. I did legging curls for the first time since I did like a really short chop on my hair. And it's a little much, but you know what? We're going to go style it after this episode. So we're not going to worry about it, okay? All good things. And yes, so we're going to start off with our why. Why should we evaluate what we just went through in 2024? Because in order for us to keep up with our fast-paced lives and really be intentional about everything, we have to avoid just moving from one thing to the next without taking time to learn from our mistakes and celebrate our wins. This reflection time allows us to recognize God's faithfulness in our lives for an entire year. An entire year, we get to look back and see all the small ways that in the moment we were like, either breeze past or maybe we were thankful for, but then we get to revisit that and be like, wow, God showed up huge here. And it also gives us time to celebrate our wins. What went well this year, big or small? I mean, literally one of my wins for the year was that I got my first ever facial. I never had a facial before, and it was just on my 2024 bucket list that I really wanted to go get a facial. And it happened, and I loved it. It was fantastic. I've gotten several since. It's fine. It's fine. It also helps us really identify areas of growth so that way we can kind of reset our focus. And that doesn't necessarily mean like, what did I suck at this year? But maybe is there a pattern that you're seeing that it's things aren't going well or you're not happy with certain outcomes, whatever it is. So our verse for today is Psalm 90:12, and it says, "Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." Okay, so teach us to number our days so we can gain a heart of wisdom. Evaluation is not just a productivity tool that we're using today, it's an actual spiritual practice. And we're going to we're going to do it today. Okay, this is so fun. Pro tip number one, as we get into how to actually evaluate. All right, this is all the details. So grab a journal, your cozy drink, and let's do this together. Pro tip one. I always start by going through my photo album or like on my phone. For some reason, this just unlocks so many memories for me. There will literally be so many things in here where I'm like, shoot, I totally forgot I did that this year. I was looking back and I forgot that I had a photo shoot in Dallas with a company that I have always wanted to work with. And I was like, oh my gosh, how did I forget that this massive achievement happened this year? And we tend to just focus on the last quarter or the last couple of months, but there's a lot that happened in the spring and in the summer that we get to also celebrate. So go through your photo album starting at the beginning of 2024 and just work your way through it and kind of remind yourself of sweet time that you had with friends or maybe like funny things that weren't funny in the moment. Like maybe you got a flat tire on your way to do something and now you can be like, oh my gosh, that day sucked. That was awful and laugh about it. But in the moment, it was like not okay. And I'm speaking from experience on that one. But that's where I always start. Okay. So once you've refamiliarized yourself with everything that happened in your year or as much as possible and unlocked all your memories, you're going to go through these 5 key questions to kind of guide your reflection time. Okay. So number 1, what are your biggest wins for the year? All right. So what are you most proud of in 2024? And this doesn't have to be what would be the biggest win to the world. Okay. So, like for me personally, this year I published a book and that was a huge, massive win. But I'm not sure that actually is my number one win for 2024. And that's going to sound crazy. But I got to go to Greece with my husband and we had the best time ever. We literally it made me realize how grateful I am to have him as a friend. And that shifted so much for me and on my perspective of our relationship. I honestly feel like that might be my biggest win for 2024 is the growth that I've experienced in my relationship with my husband. But that could be different, okay? So it could be personal growth, it could be a spiritual breakthrough, it could be a milestone in your career or different relationship. You know what I mean? It could be anything. So just really go through and figure out what were your biggest wins? Where were the things that you went, wow, dang, that happened this year. And trust me, no matter what you're thinking right now, you have some. You have times in this year where you're like, you know what, yeah, all right, that was actually pivotal for me. All right. Next, question number 2 is what were your biggest challenges? I hate this part. I really do because I feel like anytime I face a challenge, it means I failed somewhere. And I just want to nip that in the bud because I actually found myself feeling that this morning because I was doing this reflection this morning to prepare for this. And I was like, oh, I just hate the challenges part because it means I failed at something. First of all, how horrifying if I went through an entire year and didn't fail at something. Horrifying, because that means I never once pushed myself. I never once tried to go further. That's not healthy. But number 2, just because you hit a challenge does not mean that you yourself failed or that you are a failure or anything. It just means that there was a challenge. That's literally all it is. So you have to be really honest and raw with yourself here on what was the hard parts of your year. What lessons did you learn or should you learn? Because maybe in the moment you weren't able to appreciate that lesson. So example, like that car breaking down story where like it wasn't funny in the moment. But looking back on it, I'm like, dang, I like really need to be more present and be more patient because that should not have sent me over the rails in like anger and fear and impatience and anxiety the way it did. Like it was totally fine. Everyone was safe. We were just like pulled over on the side of the road and honestly did not even have to call a tow truck. So why was that like my biggest challenge this year? Like that's crazy. You know what I mean? So you have to like rethink about it and really think about what lessons you either did or need to learn still from that. And then also, how did God show up for you in those challenges? Because if there's anything I've learned, it's that we are very quick to say, oh, thanks God for this win. Yet in our challenges, we often are quick to blame God and be like, why the heck did you let this happen? Rather than being like, wow, this could have been way worse. So thank you for your provision in this moment. And thank you for also teaching me something. Like I could have been in a car accident, but actually I was able to pull off safely on the side of the road. And yes, I'm going to be late to all these meetings, but thank you, Lord, that I, A, have a job to go to, and then B, that my car is still functioning. Like just going through and really trying to shift your perspective on those hard points throughout the year. And obviously the car breaking down, that was a very minimal hard thing. But I do think when you apply it to bigger things, like for me, one of my biggest challenges this year genuinely was that my husband's been gone for the last 3 months. He is at military training. We have literally gone so long without getting to speak to each other at all. And that's been really hard. And there's a lot of things that I rely on him for around the house, and he hasn't been here to do any of them. So I've had to step up in a lot of ways. It's been really hard on him. And so what does that challenge look like? How did God show up for me? What lessons did I learn? All of that. Okay. So that's question number 2. So 1, our biggest wins. 2, our biggest challenges. 3, what habits or routines served you well? This is really, really important because, again, it's almost like celebrating small wins. So for this year, this was the first time that I have been consistently in the gym. I started in March, the second week of March, and I have worked out every single week at least 3 times a week. No, I'm sorry, 4 times a week until like this very day. So I have never been so consistent in movement and working out and all of that. And this goes through multiple vacations, multiple work trips. I've just really prioritized moving my body. And I have never, never, never done that before for this length of time. And now it is so ingrained into my weekly routine that I can't even imagine if I didn't. It's so freeing. And I love that. So, did you find a certain morning routine or that like really brought you peace? Okay. Write down what routines you can carry with you into 2025 that are going to continue to serve you well. So obviously, I want to maintain that consistent movement in my life. I have felt great about it. It's amazing, all the good things. All right. Now, number 4, the question number 4 is on the flip side of that. Shocker. What habits held you back in 2024? Again, this one's hard because I feel like, oh, well, if something was holding me back, I wouldn't have continued to do it. But that's actually not true at all. So it's okay to acknowledge that there were things that did not go as planned and maybe bad habits that are continuing as a cycle. So maybe social media became a super time suck, or maybe you really struggled with overcommitting and you're spread too thin. So awareness is the first step to change, right? So we have to make ourselves aware of the places that we are not doing well. So for me, this one, I feel like I had a lot in this bucket, especially around food. You know, I've recovered from my eating disorder, praise the Lord, but I've really found myself in a place where I just did not choose healthy meals. I would like snack all day long, or just like little snacks here and there. And I, A, was not getting enough protein, B, was not being consistent in my nourishment, and then C, I was building this really, really unhealthy pattern of just kind of always having food around me. And usually snacks are not the healthiest choice. So the last couple of months, I've really tried to restructure that. But even so, I know that I need to continue to work on that and I need to do better. So I already have an action plan for that, which is going to be to meal prep better. I'm using ChatGPT to help me build out my grocery list. Super helpful. Pro tip for you. Literally, ChatGPT comes up with so many amazing meal ideas, full recipes for you, and then we'll give you the grocery list that you need, and you can literally like tell it certain ingredients you want to remove from it. It's just so great. I spent like probably an hour on it creating this like meal plan for myself as well as a grocery list. And then I do my grocery shopping at HEB. It's here in Texas. And made a recurring order online so I can just go pick up all my groceries and it will be set for those meals that I made. Like literally a game changer. It's so, so helpful. 10 out of 10. But that was a little side note. That was just a little nugget for you. So really figuring out where the habits held you back. So what are your biggest wins, your biggest challenges, habits and routines that served you well, habits and routines that held you back. The final evaluation question is going to be, what is God calling you to in 2025? This is where I think a lot of people miss because we're just going to chase goals that either A, make us look good, or B, we think we should be doing. When in reality, that's not the way we're supposed to live our lives as Christians. So instead of like this massive vision board with pictures of you on the Amalfi Coast holding a designer bag and, you know, a martini in your hand, take some time to pray and listen, because maybe that is genuinely like God's like, you know what, you've been working hard, you deserve that martini on the Amalfi Coast with your designer bag. Maybe, but I think shifting it a little bit and creating more of like a prayer board and taking time to really listen and pray on where God is leading you. And then making sure that dreams and goals are aligning with what God has put on your heart. That's really, really important. And I absolutely love that. So as you work through these questions, you're going to start to see some patterns, areas where you're thriving, areas where you may need to focus some more energy on in 2025. And one of my favorite ways that my good friend Hannah Hughes taught me to kind of wrap this up as you're doing this is to kind of write a letter of the year. And you can do this a couple different ways. She writes the letter to herself, and then opens it, I believe the next year. Like she kind of like will write a letter and then open it while she's doing her evaluation that was from last year to herself, and then she writes another one. I think for me, I love a good letter that kind of just lists out all of these lessons and joys and challenges with a prayer for 2025. And then it's like thanking 2024 for all it held and all that God did in it. And then it's kind of like you get to reevaluate that and see what your prayer was for 2025 when you open it in 2025. I don't know if that makes sense, but I love a good letter. Good letter for you to open up next year to yourself, okay? And then if you did one last year, don't forget to open it this year. So my challenge that I'm leaving you with, set aside some time this week or next week, whenever this time is for you that you really like to dig in. Not the same time where you're going to plan for 2025. This should be separate, okay? Take a little bit of separation between the two, but set aside some time strictly to just reflect on 2024. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just give yourself literally the gift of pausing and looking back. And if you feel so inclined, share your reflections with me, okay? Literally DM me, tag me, whatever, because I am so excited to see all that's happening in 2025 for you. So let's move forward into 2025 with intention and trust in God's purpose for our lives. And we start doing that by evaluating everything he did this year. So love you lots, and I hope you have the best time looking back on this past year.